This is dead to me. Everyone's life tells a story. Some great, some not so great.
Hey everybody, it's the Old Wolf here for another episode of the Witch and Wolf Wisdom Podcast. Yes, indeed. It is Tuesday, May 31st, 8:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, coming at you live. Rochester, New York. If you hear a bit of fuzzy in the background, because the guy is outside mowing the lawn.
It was deep.
It's very deep. But also, too, it's been pretty hot up here, so I don't blame the guy for waiting until later in the evening to try and avoid some of the blazing fucking sun. So, yes, if you hear a little bit in the background, yeah, we have the guys mowing the lawn. Nothing can be done about it, but hopefully with these new mic filters and things like that, it won't be noticeable. So again, thank you everybody for coming out tonight. As always, holiday weekend, so I'm sure some of you out there are just getting back to your daily lives, your jobs, your families, all that groovy shit. So tonight's episode 31, Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll.
Ooh, that sounds like a fun topic.
You know, again, taking it off the beaten path, but on the path some of us have walked many times over redundantly. I got my brother's Broken Past, the first original that we had written back in the day, Dead to Me, from the Stone Pony to Live track playing in the background there. They're going to be doing several shows, one in Virginia coming up, a couple more scattered throughout the year. Anybody down in the Central Jersey, Virginia, tri-state area down there, check them out. Definitely some good musicians. We'll be talking more about that throughout the evening. Like I said, I like to bounce around with different elements of music with the people that I know, and obviously to the degrees that I can get away with it due to copyright laws, which brings us to my favorite part. As always, the views, expressions, thoughts, and everything else expressed are mine and mine alone. We are what we are. This, again, is a track written by myself and Tony Rodriguez. It has Jim Beck on vocals, Chris Salazar on drums, and my monkey on rhythm guitar with me. It was from a show we did a couple of years ago with the Stone Pony in Asbury Park, New Jersey. And it was the first of the originals that we had written that actually, got produced. Mm-hmm. Within that context with Jim. They have a different lineup now. Brian Stagger, Frank Acey, and Wayne White, along with Tony Rodriguez, who again is the core of that band. But yeah, definitely check them out. They are online, and pull them back up here, kind of make this a little bit easier with the, no, that overlay's not going to work. And yeah, you know what, we'll just cut out the music. Whoop. Yes, there we go. Goodbye, music. And there we go. Gotta love those dynamics of overlaps. For those of you who are only listening to us and not seeing, we're talking about Broken Past, the band. Check them out at www.brokenpastnj.com. My brother Tony's also the owner and proprietor of the Under My Skin tattoo shop, again, in the Atlantic Highlands, award-winning tattoo shop, award-winning tattoo artist, and Tony Rodriguez. You can check them out at www.undermyskin.tat2, as in the number.com, cat2. And obviously the Papo Sticker Company, www.papostickercompany.com. And Papo Sticker Company is just an extension of Tony's art and his abilities, where he can basically take anything you can imagine, create it into a bumper sticker, into a coffee mug, into a t-shirt, a hoodie, a double-ended dildo, if that's your thing. Pretty much anything that you could imagine that can be personalized and or printed. You know what I mean? He's made everything from motorcycle patches to, knitted scarves, wallets, guitar straps, all kinds of really incredible stuff. But check them out, you know what I mean? Because you're only limited by your imagination. A few others that we always like to talk about that are part of, as I call it, the expanded circle. And good evening, Christine. Great to see you and everybody else out there. And the first one that I'm going to, just because she's been doing some really wild stuff lately, is my sister Ashley Hart. Hart's Creations, Dream Catchers with Intention. Now you can find her on Facebook. It's facebook.com/Harts, Harts Creations. And I think there's a little dash in there. Never 100% positive about how Facebook.
When it's on the Facebook, I think it's just Hart's Creations.
Right.
Yeah.
Because Facebook is weird with how they do their shit.
Creations, all one word.
So yes, she definitely makes some magical shit. I say this all the time. I don't want to be fucking redundant, but you know, when you talk about people who dance in this spectrum, you know, say what you will, a lot of them are phony, a lot of them bullshit. They're just hawking things that they grab through some Chinese, you know, marketing company they found on Amazon, and they're just repackaging and reselling bullshit. Ashley's not that girl. Let me tell you, she puts real time and effort. She uses all kinds of different elements with not only within nature, but you know, minerals and woods and the aspects of what she builds within these dream catchers also reflect her personal dynamic, her personal magic, which, you know, again, anybody who believes in this stuff knows there's a fucking difference. You know what I mean? It's like a difference between a pizza from Brooklyn and the frozen pizza you got in school from the lunch lady that was like made with like cardboard and artificial cheese.
That's a big fucking difference.
There's a big fucking difference. Okay.
There's a big motherfucking difference.
Can't make this shit up. It is what it is. And we personally have several of them. They're beautiful. They're powerful. Definitely check them out. Facebook.com/Harts, Harts Creations. Now, Ashley's not the only one that we work with. We have Suzanne over at Mystical Moons, who was a sponsor for one of our promotional contests that we did a few months back. She, again, really, really beautiful person who believes in what she does. And, you know, all kinds of really neat little things, even if not for yourself, you know, as a gift type of thing. And the beautiful thing with her is, you know, just mention myself, the wolf or the Shiya, the witch, and you get 25% off your first order.
That's a
which is a huge,
deal.
you know, that's her profit, just whoop, pretty much gone out the window. So again, you know, check her out either on Facebook at Mystical Moons Live. She does lives all the time, so you can, you know, just check it out, see something you like, grab it up, or you can check her out online at www.mysticalmoons.com. And I'm going to jump to one more, just because I can. Moonbeams. Sherry and Bobby. Let me tell you, these are, again, some amazing ladies. Blessed to call them friends. Again, we're not just talking your run-of-the-mill fucking tourist trap, fucking kind of hokey type shit. We're talking elements of magic, craftsmanship.
And I'll tell you, I love their stretchy bracelets. You can, not often that you can get custom designed stretchy bracelets with just the things that you want on them that aren't going to fall apart the second day you put them on your wrist. I mean, I have some stretchy bracelets from them. Those things take a beating and keep on ticking. My God.
And again, the dynamic of the specialized attention, the personalization. And again, common reoccurring theme. They put their hearts and their souls, their magic into what they do. It isn't just about selling shit. It's about passing dynamics of their magic, their energy, and putting it out there. It is part of the reinforcing dynamic of what we talk about all the time. Strength in numbers.
Hey, Sabrina, Christine, and Chris, and Melissa.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I hope I passed the audition. So check them out at Moonbeams 2021 on Facebook and Instagram. Beautiful thing here. Just mention the witch, and you get 20% off.
Yes.
Don't tell her that you know me, though. They might charge you more, though.
And
I'm a fucking wolf. Now, me and Sherry go back and forth with that.
You and Sherry love,
But yeah, mention the witch, you get a discount. Shauna, how you doing, hun? Great to see you. Thanks for coming out.
And as a matter of fact, if you want to mess with them, just ask Sherry if smoke gets in her eyes.
Blame that one on the witch. I'm not taking fucking responsibility for that.
Oh no, she'll know it's me. She'll know it's me.
My mother raised me better than that. Smarter.
1 in the morning playing that song from my tent because the campfire smoke kept going towards her.
Yeah.
You go to bed and I start playing Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and Smoke on the Water. Oh, it was great.
Listen, some things, there are moments in time that, again, reflect those dynamics of magic and energy and everything that goes along with it. And, they're beautiful to have. And they're really good people. I know they're kind of getting settled in the process of their move and stuff. So if you guys out there listening, much love.
Wow.
We'll be seeing you soon when we come out there. But definitely, again, check them out. Moonbeams. MOON. Spells moon. Moonbeams. BEAMZ. 2021, Facebook and Instagram.
So, well, now I see here that you're a Capricorn sun and a Cancer moon and rising. I'm just going to say right now, not if, but when you need that shoulder to cry on, I'm here. Okay? Just saying.
See, now you're all doing that witchy shit.
I'm doing that witchy shit.
No, it's all good. Listen, welcome. Thanks for joining us. I don't do as much as the astrological dance as Shiya does.
Hey,
I'm an old gypsy,
to it once in a
so
while.
I look up on the sky and I'm like, it's not raining, it is raining. Okay, we're good. Moon is shining, moon is not shining. Sun is shining, just real basic shit.
Oh, we did have a new moon yesterday.
Yes, we did.
Good reset of energies.
Well, we like to call ourselves the Good Vibe Tribe, so hang out, enjoy, come along for the ride. Again, we struggle sometimes, and it's pretty funny because, all right, what do we call it? We're up to our 31st or so odd podcast, and I've been trying pretty much to do them on a weekly basis, for a variety of different reasons. One, it gives me a place to basically fucking rant and vent, but I also like to talk about certain dynamics of things. I believe, as a parent, as a teacher, as a human, that it is important to share dynamics of things, even if nobody's gonna agree per se, if not for our own sake, to be able to voice things. One of the worst dynamics that I encountered when I was younger, and I still hate it to this day, and I know a lot of people's trigger, is to be dismissed, to be told that what we feel doesn't matter, that it isn't relevant. Oh, you're being emotional. Oh, you're being crazy. Oh, blah, blah. And we spend a good part of our lives being dismissed, being told that what we think, what we feel, how we perceive things doesn't matter, isn't right. Keep it to your, especially for men, don't show emotions, that makes you weak. You know what I mean? And many of these dynamics are constructs. Those of you who have followed me and follow us, being the witch, aka.
Hi. He's looking at me, I'm waving like
I was just like anybody can really see what the fuck's going on, but no. These dynamics are reinforced. They're learned behavior. They are constructs of conditioning, some of them behind trauma elements, and then, some of them just, around basic dynamics of economics, race even, cultural elements. So you have all these different variables that come into play. And for me, one of those aspects that definitely set the tempo for me when I was younger was sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Okay? This is a dynamic, and, kind of just back up a little bit. I talk a lot about high-functioning empaths, and high-functioning empaths are those of us that have a connection with different things. We perceive things differently. We feel things differently. Say what you want. Call it magic. Call it spiritual. Call it Wicca, whatever, you know what I mean? Everybody's got their little variable on it, and I'm just a fucking old wolf. With that being said, there was a day that I was not an old wolf, that I was just a young, kind of angry wolf. Oh, I was an angry fucking wolf. A young
alpha.
And a lot of the dynamics for my world were set on the backdrop of the late 60s, early 70s, within the dynamic of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, okay? Now, each of these elements kind of tie in in different ways. Music, aka the rock and roll, and it's kind of backwards. It really should be rock and roll, sex, and drugs, because I think that's the actual progression. But rock and roll is an expression. Music, in its purest form, is conveying emotion, a feeling, a thought, an idea, a story within the framework of it. And it is more times than not driven by an emotional context. Unless you're somebody like Milli Vanilli that doesn't actually write fucking music, you just create commercials and then resell them to your fans as actual, oh, oops, did I say that out loud? Anyway. So yes, most music is an expression of that energy, of that empathic framework. And within that, there are obviously many different layers. You have humor, you have happiness, you have rage, anger, confusion, loneliness, lust, passion. All these different dynamics are expressed within music. Linnell, I'm sorry to hear you're a frustrated 45 grandma, but there's hope. Hang out with us. You know what I mean? 45 is the new 20 these days.
True that.
You know what I mean? It's all about perceptions, all how we choose to look at things.
And you always say that you had to wait 50 years to meet me.
Yeah, listen, you know, some dynamics, they don't play out in the way that we want it. It plays out in the way that it's meant to be for a variety of different reasons. Not always something, you know, how we wanted to go. But nonetheless, you know, not unlike the tides in the ocean, it's going to do what it's going to do. We can either learn to kind of ride, go with those flows, or, you know, you can kind of get dragged out. And, you know, if you don't know how to swim, you're either going to fucking drown or get eaten by the sharks. So, hey.
Sometimes it's laugh or cry.
Yeah, listen, life is crazy. The world is crazy. I think that's a pretty common dynamic that most of us can agree upon. You know, not within the aspect of, you know, being depressing and down. But yeah, you know, there's fucking crazy shit that goes on every day. People do stupid shit.
Yeah.
We were joking. We were originally going to call the podcast something about don't pull an Amber. And what we're referring to in the household,
don't shit the bed.
Don't shit the bed. So instead of like saying, hey, please don't shit the bed, we're just saying, hey, don't pull an Amber.
Yep.
In kind of a solidarity statement for all those women that feel, you know, that it's okay to shit in your partner's bed. Now, I suppose if you're being paid for that, or if your partner, you know,
is into that,
just says, hey, baby, you know, what I really want is a steaming pile of your feces, but I don't understand it. I'm not endorsing it. And as Forrest Gump would say, that's all I have to say about that.
The fetishists would be calling and
nope.
saying,
Mama says that's some dirty shit.
Miss, do you
that's not a box of chocolates. That's a box of shit.
Do you do an Amber? Would you do an Amber for me?
Jenny, get the fuck off my podcast. But anyway, perception being what it is, fucks everybody up. So we all have these perceptions, we have these constructs. For me, again, growing up in that time period and the world that was my parents, the first thing that I really was exposed to was rock and roll. It was the first thing I connected with. There are pictures my mother has, literally me at 8 months old with a fucking pair of headphones on, the reel-to-reel to the side, listening to Jimi Hendrix, okay? It is what it is. I grew up on it. I love it. It influenced me. Then came the drugs. And the drugs... the drugs were pretty much, you know, it was common. Everybody was smoking pot. I consider alcohol a drug. So, again, just my personal context, my personal perspective on it. A lot of fucking drinking. And
yeah, but I don't really consider
people getting fucked up, listening to rock and roll. That's why I said that the context of sex, drugs, rock and roll is actually backwards. But from the drugs, again, obviously leads into the sex. So I saw all these dynamics at a very early age. I was having a relationship with a woman almost 3 times my age at 12 years old.
That just baffles me.
I was doing drugs at 12 years old. I was drinking at 12 years old. And yes, I was doing rock and roll at 12 years old. Now, in retrospect, and I need to clarify this, as a parent now, in no uncertain reality, and I will say this, that's not the way for a child to grow up. My mother freely admitted it. Okay? My father's dead, so no matter what the fuck he thinks. But again, well, listen, in retrospect, again, that was not a healthy context. It was what it was. Considering the dynamics, my father was an abusive alcoholic. My mother had 5 kids, me being the oldest, so she had to make some really hard decisions in regards to the dynamics of, lesser of fucking evils. And she was caught up, and she talks about it very openly and honestly. She was caught up in her own cycle of addiction within the frameworks of who she was as a person, as a woman, with children, and trapped in an abusive fucking relationship. So it wasn't a good framework for a lot of things. Now, again, I won't get into the religious blah, 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 and all the elements, but the sex, drugs, and rock and roll set the tempo for a good part, at least of my life, going forward from there. All these elements went hand in hand, the sex, the drugs, and the rock and roll. Because of the rock and roll, people gave me free drugs.
Now, you have so many people that are like, oh, dude, that's the life. That's
no.
what so many people are going for. So why is it not?
It's a fucking illusion, because it is really, again, based off of trying to fill the proverbial empty hole. It is self-medication. It is variations on the spin within depression, self-esteem, anxiety, social awkwardness. All these different words that I'm using represent different dynamics, different feelings, different patterns within the aspects of, at least within the sex and the drugs. You know what I mean? I did not have what I believed was a loving context. So I translated love into sex. Now, because of the rock and roll, that also opened the door for me into sex. So again, I formulated these connections. I created, in many ways, my own conditioning about how I perceived, how I translated these things. So sex was love.
And you know what? It even doesn't even take going into the whole rock and roll and drugs thing for people to equate the same thing there, too.
Absolutely.
We all go through our own version of finding our sex, drugs, and rock and roll context, thinking that's what we want.
To some degrees. Again, it plays out in different ways for different people. I just use it in the analogy, again, as a musician, as a performing artist. And, again, it correlates back into what these patterns, and again, they're illusions, okay, make no mistake, but what they really lead to, they're incredibly deceptive. It is not unlike, a 50-foot python hiding in a bed of roses.
Oh dear.
Once you get to a certain point, you get caught in it and it consumes you, and it will eat you alive. Now, again, that's just a visual analogy that jumped in my head. But the pattern became, between the drugs, the alcohol, and the sex, of a constant escape from the dynamics of things that were wrong, that were not correctly built. They weren't adjusted in many ways because of the dynamics of the world around me. And then when you become used to them, they now become crutches. They become compensators. They become literally the tools that we tell ourselves that we need to survive. And anything outside the box that threatens that reality can be, and usually is, chaotic at best. Now, the analogy for most people, they don't really see it until tragedy strikes. And again, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, as you said, and I think very aptly tried, doesn't just apply to guitar players or rock and roll guys. It applies to every dynamic within the framework, especially artists. Artists tend to be high-functioning empaths, and they tend to, again, burn very brightly within the scope of that magic. Their magic.
Yeah, we've seen that a lot of times. Robin
Right.
Williams.
Robin Williams, John Belushi, you know what I mean? And then, you know, you obviously within rock and roll, you have your Chris Cornells, your Chester Benningtons,
Yep.
you know, your Kurt Cobains, you know, the list goes on and on, your Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison. You know, unfortunately, it is a long and deep path littered with, you know, those whose passions, unfortunately, again, consume them
Yeah.
within the scope of the drugs or the sex or the rock and roll. Brother John, thanks for joining us. Yeah, you mentioned, reminds you of John Brashaw's books you were skimming through today with a group. Yes, I cannot talk about the Obi-Wan series yet because I don't want to fuck it up for anybody else. Once the whole series is played out, I'm actually going to do a podcast on it to debate, discuss, all that type of stuff. But for now, I'm following the creed and just being, we will not speak of these things. I have spoken. This is the way.
This is the way.
But yes, it is fucking amazing. I can absolutely say that. I recommend it for anybody who has Disney Plus service. Go check out the new Obi-Wan.
No, we can't even talk about it in our own house right now.
Listen, Disney will
So
probably
we
get pissed off for me just mentioning the name, but hey, that, you know, they've been getting fucked with down in Florida. My boy DeSantis, he's got a hard-on for the mouse. I think DeSantis personally, and I haven't seen any proof yet to disprove this, but I think he's a mouse fucker. I mean, that's really the only correlation that I can draw.
I honestly think,
and I saw it on a QAnon website that said Ron DeSantis is actually
the current rolling theory is that
he's like one of those hybrid mouse that escaped from the lab, took on a human form.
In the lab.
He was trapped in the lab. That's what it is.
By mice.
I can never keep these conspiracy theories straight. Like, you know what I mean?
He was raped by multiple mice and has trauma with
Oh wow, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
I didn't know about all that.
Yeah.
See, now I kind of feel bad for the mouse now.
So now
Comedy people, sarcasm. Trigger alert.
Trigger alert.
But people say these things. But listen, it's not
don't
as
say these things.
I don't think it's any less realistic than, you know what I mean. Listen, I saw a thing, I was reading through some stuff today. There was a woman out somewhere. She was screaming some of this QAnon crazy rhetoric, but was basically talking about how, like, you know, like something had like these Lucifer chips in them basically to take over people's souls. And it's just like
is that like supposed to be like the mark of the beast kind of thing again?
No, listen, I thought IKEA stole everybody's souls in the late 80s, early 90s. I didn't know there were any souls left.
IKEA was only allowed to steal souls of people who went in shopping there.
Oh, okay, that's how
That's
it works.
why it's a maze.
See, I don't know. You know, some of this shit is just so far off the fucking deep end for me that I just have to kind of...
Look, IKEA is like the Hellbox from
Oh, that's how the Cenobites, like Pinhead and shit come from. See, I'm learning new stuff every day.
In IKEA and you release the Hellhounds, and they steal your soul.
Well done. We have special guest, Sister Diana.
Oh no!
Yes, the Ewok Queen has arrived. Sister Diana, good. Thank you for joining us. Yes, for those of you who don't know, who are just like, what the fuck just happened? Some of our friends within our circles have now kind of taken on new personas. We call it the Magical Avengers.
Yeah.
So
we have the Goblin Queen.
We Goblin Queen. We got the Ewok Queen. We got the Beaver Queen.
We have Lord John the Phoenix the Great. I don't know what.
I'm not sure what his powers are yet.
He had the Lord John thing on one of them, so he's Lord John.
Yeah, but there's different dynamics. You know, different people. And
you know nothing, John Phoenix.
Oh, she went there, man. I didn't. Okay, I got no control over this shit. As you can tell, there's no time delay on this show. There's no filter. It's completely just
raw and unscripted, guys.
You know, it's about as organic gets. Now, we've been blessed. Nobody and nothing has basically, like, lost their fucking minds. I keep expecting the Scientologists to show up and cancel me any day because I fuck with them all the time.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's certain dynamics, again, anybody that knows me and has followed any of this stuff. there are a couple of moments where I've just gone deep, like, I don't give a fuck. I'm tired of certain things. Like, you know, if you're a little fucking white supremacist Nazi going around screaming, shooting people, I'm going to fucking emasculate you. I'm going to paint you out to be the little pussy, little closeted scumbag, cock-sucking piece of shit that you are. And I'm sorry, you know what? Listen, I saw somebody online today, and I forget when she had posted it, because I'm not real great with this stuff. I'll periodically just blast through this, see what chaos is going on in the land of social media. But it was really an apt statement. We are really at a point in time that shit needs to be said for what it is. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to put anybody down. I'm not trying to disparage. I want people to find common ground. I want people to love each other, not in that weird kind of creepy, moist kind of way, but just in a genuine kind of community kind of way. Basically. If you're into the creepy, moist thing, that's your thing, but please just do it in your own house. But with that being said, there are certain things now that are just so far out of fucking whack that you just got to call it out. You just got to call it out. No, it's not new. Well, some people see. I always try, and again, this is part of what
This is not new. The wolf.
This is what I try. People like you, Diana. Yeah, you know it for what it is, and you and I are very alike about that. So yeah, there is no fucking new. But more and more, the podcast is going out to different places, and new people are experiencing it, which I'm glad. I want to embrace. I want people to, hey, come on, let's get together. Let's talk through some of this shit. Let's find some common ground. We don't have to agree about everything. We don't even have to like some of the dynamics. But some of the fucking insanity has to be called out for what it is. You know, certain things, and Brother John says it quite aptly, unless you live in a glass house, don't throw an orgy in one of those. Well, listen, you can. Just don't be surprised, as Diana says, when other people might scream.
Right.
Or you might have a random, person who will just show up and start jerking off. You know, you got to remember cause and effect.
I'll get a video camera and sell it on OnlyFans.
So if you start doing that stuff, you got to expect, a beaver may show up, the cops may show up. Maybe they want to cut in the action. Who the fuck knows? I'm just saying, it's all. And if you're a Scientologist, well, you're just pissed off that you're not getting paid.
There you go.
Yeah, it's like, orgies can be welcome in a glass house.
Absolutely.
Well, but listen, is it so bad to look? I mean, no offense. Here's my take on it, and I will agree to disagree with Diana on this. View at your own risk. There you go.
Yeah.
But if you're fucking in a glass house and people can see it, that suggests to me an element of exhibitionism. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. And, some things, are, again, what they are. I personally believe, and within the context of the sex, drugs, rock and roll, the sex is one of the things that just constantly fucks people up. Sex should be a beautiful thing. It shouldn't be something that's dirty that we have to hide. But in the same instance, it shouldn't be exploitive. It's not fair to women that, sexuality is addressed in these two-dimensional aspects where everybody looks like this.
Everything is sexualized. Your hem's too short. Your hem's too low. You're smiling too much. You don't smile enough.
Sister Diana, I smell shades of your own lower self-esteem. Looker sees you at their own risk. Listen, that's a good thing. I don't know what's at their own risk. You're a woman. So what? I prefer women that are real. I've had women. I've had the plasticine Barbies. It fucking sucks. That's what I mean. The sex, drugs, and rock and roll is a fucking illusion. It's not real. I want that at my own risk. I want a woman with some rolls. Maybe she's got, a little bit of scar tissue from, having kids. Maybe her tits are a little bit saggy. Maybe one eye goes to the left, one eye goes to the right. I like that shit. That shit's real. Okay? Honest sexuality and passion has nothing to do with the surface stuff. They're, dicks and holes. I mean, there it is. 1 + 2. Dicks and holes.
Yep.
There is, everything else is just a variation on the spin. And I don't mean that to be crude, and I do not mean to offend. but some things are what they are. Shannon says her son had his first kiss 14 years old tonight. He's becoming a man.
Why do we equate, though? I mean, that's great and wonderful that he had his first kiss. But becoming a man, I think, to me, is more about being able to take on responsibilities.
It's perceptional, but as a parent, I would say, no, that's still part of the context. He's developing, the first stages of how relationships will play out.
It's
So, yes, and, and congratulations. I think I see was an upside-down smiley, which I can understand, and, one parent to another. Yeah, your little boy's growing up. If you're like me, there's nobody that's going to be good enough for your son. So we have to, as parents, do the best we can to try and not stifle our children, let them grow, let them experience, but be there, obviously, to protect them because, not everybody has their best interests at heart. And I'll just leave it at that.
Ex-girlfriend stories from the monkey. You better be glad I wasn't here. I'd have called somebody's eyeballs out.
See, now that's a classic story. He walked her home. They've been going out for 4 years. That's good.
That's so
That's a good thing. That's a positive element, I think.
Yeah.
Something that should be encouraged and reinforced. Building that dynamic over time. It allows them not only to have elements of the friendship, but obviously the dynamics of them growing
Sounds like they're growing
together. You know what I mean? Because we do. We, especially as children, we develop the aspects that will become our basic format as adults. Yeah, the growing up part, that's nothing. Yeah, can't get away with it. And yes, it is something that's difficult for us parents, but here's the other thing. I would take it and say, hey, you're doing the right job. You're doing it right. You know what I mean? Because that's exactly where a young man, in my humble opinion, should be. You know what I mean? He should be working, developing on those aspects.
You know what, though? He walked her home. That means that, Shannon, you probably weren't standing there, which basically means your son came home and told you he kissed a girl. That's a testament
That's
to
communication. That's trust. That's a good thing. Yeah, absolutely. So these are the little dynamics. And, I will be honest with you. I didn't have that dynamic as a child. I hated both my parents when I was younger. You know what I mean? I didn't, repair the elements with my mother until a little bit further down the road when she came through her own aspects of addiction and finally divorced my father again for the abusive fucking bastard that he was. So she needed to have her own space and time to come out the other end of her traumas. But, thank God we were able to find a common ground. I was never able to find that when my father and my father died without us having any context, but he died alone, and he died an ugly man. He died within the framework of his hatred, within his prejudices, within his addiction. And again, I say this, I guess, with a little bit more of a grain of salt, because unfortunately we need that dynamic to remind people where it ends up, okay? As horrible as it is, and people are, oh, that's horrible. He was your father. You know what? He was another person. And if his shitty life and his shitty death stopped one person from going off the fucking cliff, then you know what? It's worth every fucking moment of it. And I say that again, not as a human, but as a parent. Because sometimes that's all we can do. All we can do is take a dynamic of a lesson from the bad things. We've learned something. Okay, I will no longer stick my dick in a moving fan. Some things you have to experience. Now, me personally, I wouldn't do it, but I suppose somebody somewhere had to do it. Or else we wouldn't have all these fucked up safety labels. I mean, again, imagine the world with no safety labels.
Here's the more apt analogy. Do not try to French kiss a ferret.
Yes. Yeah, anybody who was on the podcast for that story knows that ends up fucking badly. Ferrets don't like tongues. No. It looks like a snake and they'll fuck you up. I say talk to kids, admit your shit to a degree. Absolutely, you can't. And listen, I found out the hard way. You know what I mean? My son knew more about what was going on, and I've talked about this a few times with what was going on with his mother, my wife at the time, than I even did. And I thought I was shielding him. And no joke, true story. He pulled out his phone. He's like, "Yeah, no, I got pictures, man."
Jeez.
There's something wrong when your kid knows more about what's going on than you do. And I, I love him, don't get me wrong, but I had to take a serious look at what I was doing, for all I thought that I was protecting him from the sex, drugs, rock and roll. He saw it and he knew it, what I mean, for what it was. Now, again, I was blessed with the dynamic that I was at least able to build a good foundation of communication that despite the shit that he and I went through, it didn't destroy us. You know what I mean? We found a way through it. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't fun. He wasn't happy, when his mother died. I wasn't, well, anyway. But, and I say that jokingly, and it's kind of fucked up, but it was true. You know what I mean? At that point in my life, at that point in time, she had caused so much chaos because of the sex, drugs, and rock and roll that I was just like, oh, and finally, this chapter is over.
Well, you found a context of getting out of that lifestyle in order to raise your son.
But unfortunately, certain things, and I know some of you can relate to this, certain things, they carry over. And unfortunately, the only thing that makes them go away is fucking death. I'm sorry. It's not a pretty context. I don't say it in an aspect to be, again, flippant about it. But if we're going to have an honest conversation, for some people, this world is never going to be right. They thrive on other people's pain, okay? Yeah. They go out of their way to manipulate, to hurt, to take advantage, to deceive, to do fucked up, horrible shit that doesn't make any sense to any of the rest of us. So at what point, and again, I just use the Spock analogy, when the needs of the many or the few outweigh the needs of the one. And in this particular case, if you're fucking Khan, Noonan, Singh, guess what? You're getting zapped out the fucking airlock, man. Yeah. I'm sorry. I don't care at that juncture. I've seen enough in my life to say, you know what? It's not worth rolling the dice on everybody else. Now, that doesn't mean that people can't be forgiven. It doesn't mean that people can't change. But there is an aspect where you have to look at the dynamic, the context, again, obviously, but certain repeating patterns, especially when they're destructive. AKA, if you're a drunk, abusive person that constantly, I'll use the horrible analogy. And again, I apologize if this triggers anybody, but some pictures need to be painted for what they are. If you're a drunk and abusive parent that has and continues to molest your 9-year-old daughter repetitively, year after year after year, fuck you. Not okay. No more. No, send you out and, oh, maybe he's getting... No, these are dysfunctional patterns that don't change. It's the same analogy, unfortunately, when you have people who go through our legal systems 4, 5, 6, 7 times, multiple counts of violence, assault, murder, rape. Okay, I'm not talking about the guy that stole a Kit Kat from Wawa. I'm not talking about the guy who maybe, didn't pay his child support because he hasn't been able to get a job. I'm not talking about the woman who made a mistake, okay, and drove through 3 red lights and crashed into a tree. I'm talking about the context of people who repetitively prey on others within certain frameworks. Again, context, murder, rape, okay? Unfortunately, our society, in my humble opinion, has gotten to the point that we have become so over-tolerant of these behaviors that they're just almost like, yeah, well,
Well, it's like they're trying to turn...
Morty's killing Mortys.
They're trying to turn pedophilia into a genderqueer kind of thing. And it's like, no.
And it's like, you know what?
Pedophilia is a disease and a horrible, punishable...
But again, regardless of the reasons, okay, I'm not saying that everything is black and white, because it isn't. But when you have a pattern, when you have a person, a man or a woman, binary, otherwise regardless, that continues to repeat said pattern, you have to remove them from the equation, because the collateral damage is not worth the trade-off.
Truth.
You know what I'm saying? And again, I think most people will agree. They don't want to have to worry about their children. They don't want to have to worry about their grandmothers and their brothers and their sisters. You know, again, we're not going to stop all the random stuff, but we could do a better job at drawing the line, as my brother John says. Draw a better line that says, guess what? You know, once you go to a certain point, you know, and again, I'm not talking about capital punishment. I'm just talking about, I'll use George Carlin's analogy. Let's just buy Kansas, move all the good people out, put a big, giant fucking Snake Plissken fucking dome wall around Kansas, and they all get shipped there. And they can fuck each other and kill each other and eat each other's brains and do whatever the fuck they want, while the rest of us can go on with our lives without having to worry about stupid shit. You know what I mean? And, you know, at some point, you know, people are going to have to just get so sick and tired of shit like mass shootings and these insane type of, you know, again, every day I see stories about women who've had 5, 10, 20 restraining orders, documented, and these scumbags are still allowed to walk in, beat the shit out of them, kill them, rape them. You know what I mean? And as much as this makes people uncomfortable, my humble opinion and my prediction is, if you took a couple of these characters out to fucking Times Square and put them on prime time and crucified them, you would send a message real quick that if you know, hey, if you act this way, you're not going to get famous. You're not going to get a reality TV series. We're going to crucify your naked ass to a fucking tree with rusty spikes, and then 10 million people are going to stand there and laugh at you while you die slowly. At some point, there has to be a disincentive. There has to be some incentive not to do it. We have to discourage it. Now, granted, I'm talking extreme. It's sarcasm. It's comedy. Right. I'm not promoting the I'm Batman, go full-blown vigilante. No.
Diana wants the purge.
Listen, I feel you. You know what I mean? But, yes, there is obviously a bit of a disconnect that plays out. You can take any of the elements, okay, and kind of bouncing it back into what we were originally talking about. Sex can be a great and beautiful thing, okay? Drugs, even within reason and in controlled circumstances, can be a good thing. Rock and roll surely can be a good thing, but like anything, you know what I mean? If your rock and roll includes, you know, beating each other up with baseball bats while, you know, jerking off to Hitler comics, no, that's not rock and roll to me. I don't know what the fuck that is.
My rock and roll.
Not my rock and roll, baby. But, like a lot of things, it's that context. Yes, Courtney, I saw that, and it was absolutely horrible that, you know, for years they just basically conditioned and all those other things and spin it into, oh, well, really, it's okay, it's acceptable because he married her. And this was God. Jesus said, stick your dick in a 9-year-old girl. Yeah, it's bullshit, okay? And I tell you what.
So much bullshit.
Tell you what, some people in that religious zone better hope the fuck that Jesus don't come back, because I guarantee you, if he comes back,
he ain't gonna be cool.
He's going to come back, he's going to be pissed off. There are going to be some people that are going to have to answer for the shit that they have said in his name. He's going to come back full Samuel L. Jackson, and motherfucker, you said what?
And if you don't think that that's a context, look at the whole moneylender thing. He
hung out with lepers and whores, man. They were cool to him. He loved them. Love, people, love.
He called the religious right a bunch of whited sepulchres. In other words, they're pretty graves with a bunch of rot festering inside.
Listen again.
He went into the temple and said, what the fuck?
This dynamic exists across all cultures, across all religions. It's not specific to one or the other, okay? There are horrors that are committed, you know, listen, there were horrors committed in rock and roll. That's really, you know, what a big spin on the Manson, you know, the Tate LeBlanc murders back in the 60s. You know, Charles Manson was based around dynamics of, quote unquote, supposedly what was within the framework of a Beatles album, specifically Helter Skelter. That somehow that this was, and talk about, you know, premonition of Q fucking Anon to come down the road, that somehow this was the hidden diatribe for the upcoming race war against white and black people. This shit was playing out in the 60s, folks, with cats like Charlie Manson and others and stuff like that. Or later on is, hey, if you play Led Zeppelin Stairway to Heaven backwards, it's actually the key to summoning the devil and unleashing hell on earth. Sell your soul to the devil now. Buy Led Zeppelin 4. Fucking insanity, man. And some of us in a pseudo stunned out, hey man, hey man, you think that shit's real? Let's try that, man. All right, man, you got the album? Yeah, man. You got the record? Okay, man, all right. What speed do we play it backwards, man? I don't know, man. It just says you play it backwards and Satan's gonna show up. Like real Satan, man? Like the devil type? Or just, no, man, they just say play it backwards, man. Play that shit backwards and fucking is bullshit. There was nothing. No devil showed up. Hell didn't open up. There were no magical fucking golden pussy demons. None of it.
In the satanic rock and roll thing. I wasn't even allowed to listen to Striper.
Bullshit.
And that was a quote unquote Christian rock band. You know? So I wasn't even allowed to listen to that. And then, I mean, I can listen to Amy Grant, Sandy Patty, that sort of shit. That's what I was allowed to listen to.
I listen to, you know, to each their own.
That's what I was forced to.
But here's the funny thing, and I know some cats within some of those circles that you mentioned, and a lot of those guys, and by their own admission, because they're back on tour now, by the way, all that shit when Striper was out on tour, they were having fucking orgies and getting high. It was all bullshit. Everybody's like, Jesus and chastity. Oh, you want to fuck me in my ass? Okay, let's do it. You know what I mean? It was just so hypocritical. And they talk about it like, yeah, you know, we were young. Wasn't really about God. It was about pussy. You know what I mean? But we're back now, and it really is about God. No, actually, it's about fucking money because you're a bunch of old fucking hypocrites now, and, you know, only the same fucking, you know, again, I don't begrudge anybody, but at least be honest. You know, come out and just be straight up with your shit. Don't, like, I love Robert Plant. Robert Plant's like, you know what? I don't give a fuck. I'm not doing it for money. I'm not doing it for anything. You can all go fuck yourself. I want to go do this over here. And again, there are Christian musicians who are true. There are Christians and Muslims and others of other faiths that are true to those dynamics. And I don't ever want to take anything away from somebody that is true within their context. Yeah. But so much of it is bullshit. I mean, Jesus Christ, the biggest pedophile establishment right now, okay, QAnon people, if you're any of you out there, it's the Catholic fucking Church.
Yep.
Okay? More cases of child molestation within the Catholic Church than everywhere and anything else combined.
Truth.
Okay, so go, if you want to help children, you want to go save children, deal with it on that level. Oh, don't even get me started. China's like Tammy and Jimmy. Listen, you know, Jimmy Baker, he was having a good old time. He was sticking his dick all over the place, you know, because Tammy Faye didn't want to give it up. That would fuck up Tammy's makeup.
Yeah.
You know how it goes.
Hey, if a man fucks up a woman's makeup
again,
the right way,
you know,
it's a good thing. These
dynamics, and listen, on the other side of the spectrum, and it's one of the reasons, besides being a parent, I could not, in good conscience, you know, transfer those dynamics, those generational fuck-ups onto my kids. So I kind of, you know, I pulled away from it from a long time. And then I took them out to show them the aspect of, like, all right, you want to see what it's really like? Come on out with me. We'll go do some shows. We'll go play around, and you can see the ugly reality. There are aspects of it that are true, okay? Some people within the music industry treat women horribly. They treat them like sluts, like they're fucking pieces of property, and While some will make the case, well, if they show up, they know. No, that's bullshit. Okay, I'm sorry. It's an illusion. It's dope beaning. It's gaslighting. It's manipulation. It's narcissism. Fuck you, no. But it does happen. So, again, for you parents out there, if your kid says, hey, you know, I got backstage passes to go see, you know, Motley Crue. Don't do it. Don't let your child go. Under any circumstances, let them be angry with you, because, trust me, the shit that you hear about with some of those guys, aka the Motley Crues and the Poison and, you know, a lot of these others, is real. Okay? A lot of bands are family-oriented. You know, guys like Metallica, for example. They have kids and families and stuff. So they don't do that shit backstage at their shows. Just like I don't do that shit at my shows. And a lot of people, Tony doesn't do that shit at his shows. Other musicians and artists don't do that shit at their shows. But some do. And it's also spun within the context of the sex, drugs, rock and roll. Oh, you know what I mean? You know, it is the ultimate ticket to, you know, all these supposed, and again, it's bullshit. It's an illusion. It destroys more people. And in the end, again, it's empty. It's not based on anything sustainable. It's artificial. So the unfortunate pattern becomes you need more of it. And then there's not enough of it. There's not enough drug. There's not enough sex that you can jam into a black hole. By its very definition, you cannot fill it. It does not work. So those patterns, especially when we're broken inside, when we're lost, for whatever reasons, they don't work.
And you've mentioned many times that addiction is part of the human condition.
Absolutely.
It is. I like your analogy with that, is that all of us, you know, we're always trying to find a way to feel good, to feel better. I mean, we'd like to feel good as opposed to feeling bad.
It defines our experiences as humans. Most of what we do is based around what we feel. We work to get money to pay the bills so we can, you know, have heat and air conditioning so we can buy food to eat, to survive, but clothes because we like how that feels, or a bottle of scotch because I like how that makes me feel, or maybe it's, hey, I'm going to go to the strip club and I'm going to pay a girl $500 to take me in the back behind the dumpster and blow me because that feels good. I'm going to stick this needle in my eyeball and shoot this weird shit.
Why'd you have to do the eyeball?
Because it makes me feel better, because most of it is a drive to escape the dynamics of what we don't want to feel. We don't want to feel pain. We don't want to feel loneliness. We don't want to feel fear. So whatever we can do to avoid and or replace those dynamics, oh, we'll chase like a dog chasing its fucking tail.
Problem is, when we're doing that, most of the time we're creating even more of the situation we're trying to escape from.
And, you know, Jennifer makes a great she makes a great point. You know, helps her is taking her bike out for a ride. Many of us over the years have found better and healthier
coping mechanisms,
dynamics to process and deal with certain things. You know, I found it in surfing for a point in time when I was, you know, in that in-between, right before my son was born, and just choking to death. Yeah, see, that's that live podcast.
My job.
Random choking. So we all find different elements, you know what I mean? And that isn't to say, hey, listen, I eat too much pasta. It's not good for me, but I like it. I like the way it tastes. So we indulge, and it's always about this, you know, checks and balances, finding the damage. Yeah, Mindy, I hear you. Food is definitely one of the replacement addictions for me. You know, I don't drink. I smoke marijuana sometimes, a good amount of times.
Sometimes.
But but again, flip side, you know, full disclosure. From different elements of having my nose and my jaw broken many times over the years, arthritis in my hands, and, you know, a family history of hypertension, I have very limited options of how I can deal with certain elements of things like my migraines or weather shifts, when my joints just start screaming. And as a guitar player, that's just not acceptable. So there's only so many things I can do to be able to be functionable to the degrees that I need to be. And I refused, because I watched how pharmaceuticals destroyed my kid's mother. I will not go down that road. I will not use opiates. I will not use dynamics of these really deep drug things that just fuck people's lives up. So I found a balance between, like what Jennifer says, you know, finding things, you know, I'll do this, I'll do that, my music, meditation, whatever, and a little bit of motherfucking weed. Take the edge off, take the pain away, so that way I can exist. Quality of life, you know what I mean? Is it for everybody? No. If it's for you, great. You know, I don't want to begrudge anybody their choices, but again, I feel much better personally and, you know, physically in the context smoking marijuana versus, you know, using, you know, Oxycontins or any of the things that quote unquote my doctor recommends. It's okay. Here's a prescription. Wolf?
Yeah,
really? It's okay.
Take all
You'll feel better.
chemicals. Cancel.
It's bullshit. And it's a death trap. Shauna, good night, hon. Have a great night. Thanks for joining us.
Jonathan who is leaving. He's going to go watch Obi-Wan.
Oh, he's going to watch Obi-Wan. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, Shauna was just saying good night to Jonathan.
And Jen, listen, I get that. You're ready to rip someone's head off right now, still can't ride. May I humbly suggest to you, though, and this is a great segue, and I don't mean it sarcastically, check out Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll. Any of the combination thereof, just within a positive framework. You know, obviously, don't shoot heroin, but hey, you know what? Smoke a joint, listen to some Led Zeppelin, and maybe play with yourself. I don't know. I'm just saying. Did I say that out loud?
No, I say, you know, when you...
Just as unless you have somebody that will play with you for you.
Yeah.
Because I don't always recommend just like, you know, you shouldn't just walk down the street and be like, hey, somebody touched my vagina. That usually doesn't play out right. It might. I don't know what kind of neighborhood you're in.
Right neighborhood, maybe.
But,
yeah, it could be interesting.
Well, Jen says sex not helping. Okay, well, you know, that's honest. But, again, context being what it is it the right sex?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, because there are different kinds of sex. There's sex that, you know, you really wish never happened and hope never happens again. There's the kind of sex that was like, did that really just happen? And then there's the sex that it's just like, oh my God, I'm going to pass out and sleep the best sleep that I've slept in at least 3 or 4 days, if not a couple of weeks. But again, it's all context, situations being what they are, but it's personal. So we have to find the dynamics of what works for us. It's not going to be 100% from one person to the next. You know what I mean?
She brings up a great point. She went from suicidal 14 through 19 to an awakening, getting mad and turning the anger into making her life better. But now she's a workaholic. So you found a better addiction to kind of deal with.
Sometimes it's a trade-off.
Yeah, sometimes it is a trade-off, and we learn and we grow and adapt as we go through. But if we're going to have some kind of an addiction, we can do the least harmful thing or even something that can better us. I know some people who are addicted to working out.
Well, listen, again, there are certain elements, and we'll just call this the science section.
Science?
Music, drugs, and sex all share in common that they trigger responses within us biochemically. They release endorphins, okay? And other aspects within adrenaline. And these chemicals combine and react to give us pleasure, relief.
Feels good.
Dun, 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 dun.
Feels good.
Yes, like that. So these are dynamics that within the human equation are, for the most part, common to all of us. Different triggers to get you to point A to point B. You know what I mean? Somebody out there right now has got a gerbil crawling up their ass, and it's the best thing they've ever done. I'm not endorsing that. I'm not suggesting that. But hey, somewhere, that's going down. Somewhere right now, a woman is being paid to literally stomp somebody's balls into the concrete. and he's loving it. It's worth every dollar to him, and it's great for her because she just made a couple of dollars, and she gets to take out all of her fucking frustrations on this guy.
Yep.
It's a good trade-off, but what works for everybody is not something, again, that I even believe is debatable per se. Don't get me wrong. If your thing is, well, I'm going to smash my head into this concrete wall until I bleed, I'm going to say, hey, you might have to take a different look at this. And Mindy hits it. Yeah, facts. She used to work at the ER. I knew a couple of people that worked in the ERs, and some of the stories. Oh my fucking God. Oh my.
They had a TV show about that, about sex sent me to the ER.
Jesus. And when you look at it from the outside and you take away the stigma and the moral judgment thing, people are just trying to get off. They're just trying to find a way not to feel the way that they're feeling. They want to feel something different, and they don't know what to do. Like, I'm sure that out in the desert, at whatever point in time this happened, I don't think a guy just really got up in the morning, was like, you know, I really want to fuck goat. That was probably years of pent-up frustration, nothing but sand and sun and desolation, and the only thing to look at, bah, over time, it looks more and more attractive. And then one day, nobody's looking, right? I just think the tip in. And then go fucker. It happens. Somewhere, it happened. Now again, I say this in comedy, I say this in sarcasm. Somebody somewhere is like, what the fuck, man? Fucking goats? Yeah, listen. People do that shit. They trust me when I tell you, you're only limited by the deepest, darkest elements of imagination with some of the shit that goes on. People dress up as animals so they can just run around anonymously and smell each other's assholes because it's a thing. They like it. But somewhere, as our sister Suzanne, the Beaver Queen, says, somebody went out
and licked
and was like, Beaver asshole, artificial vanilla. Let's try it.
Excuse me.
How did we end up here? I don't know. I didn't do it. I had nobody consulted me. I didn't get an email. I didn't get a phone call, a text, nothing. It just, hey, here it is, artificial vanilla. Oh, by the way, it comes from a beaver's asshole. Fucking George Carlin would be rolling over his grave. I'm
George Carlin to be reincarnated and get back here already.
No, because George would lose his fucking mind.
Exactly.
George would not.
That would be awesome.
It would be bad. So in many ways, I'm kind of grateful that he doesn't have to watch the debacle play out in real time. It's tough.
But it would be so great.
Especially again,
all the bullshit.
All joking aside, a lot of what I do is a compensator. We like to refer to it in our game terms as our sanity checks.
Yes.
Because how else are you supposed to deal with some of these aspects without just spinning them into some fucked up comedic context?
Right.
You know what I mean? And I get it, understandably. It's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. Some people are going to be like, that's fucked up. And you're right, it is fucked up. I don't pretend it to be anything else, but I'm honest, at least in the scope that, hey, this is how I process it, so I don't lose my fucking mind or crawl into a hole and just say, you know what, fuck the world, you're all too crazy and fucked up. You know what I mean? So we all do what we have to do to compensate. Now, I'm not going to lie. I'm not so big on the drugs, but I love sex and I love rock and roll.
Well, I guess we
okay,
don't
so
drugs. Like
there's the reality, and then there's the bullshit fantasy thing about, again, that somehow these things define who we're supposed to be. And it's another great example of what I like to refer to is the cultural conditioning. You know what I mean? It's the American Idol thing. You know what I mean? Pick up a guitar. You know what I mean? You too can, get the hot chick and you just have a party all the time with just endless orgies and people throwing money at you, living the lifestyles of the rich and famous.
Not so much.
You know, until you fucking OD in a pile of your own shit. Or a literal context, true story myself, I got so fucked up once after a show, I passed out and woke up in a snowbank somewhere outside of Brooklyn. How I didn't freeze to death, I don't fucking know. Maybe because I didn't really have blood at the time. It was mostly alcohol, and alcohol has a much lower freezing temperature than actual blood. You know, and again, I can say that jokingly, but man, you know, there were a few points that you know, if it weren't for the fucking universe, it definitely would have been very, very bad. But also, too, the dynamics of why, again, right or wrong, I had a psychotic, abusive father as a role model. So a lot of that anger and shit from that abuse translate, and Jonathan and I joke about it a lot, but I literally became Batman, you know what I mean? I would get tuned up, and I would go out looking for scumbags, okay? No joke. And I would go find them, even if none existed. I'd push the button to make your inner scumbag come out to justify me beating the shit out of you. And that little fucking dysfunctional pattern, you know, broke my hands a couple times, had my face bashed in a couple of times. Here's the beautiful thing. Alcohol is not always the best translator into whether or not a situation should be danced upon. So, yeah, judgment being impaired, you know what I mean? Batman gets his ass kicked sometimes. So, yeah, I had a couple of those Bane moments where it's like, you are not born of darkness. And I got fucked up, had my nose broken, teeth knocked out, jaw broken. And to some degrees, I embraced that because I also did some boxing. And I did that as, again, an outlet. It was like, well, if I'm going to fight, I want to be able to fight the best I can. And I didn't really think about how that was going to compound with the fact that I was a fucking guitar player and I needed my hands. So that little dynamic played itself out, and a choice had to be made. At what degree do we, again, look at our own dysfunctions? Again, I was lucky and blessed in many degrees that I had at least a few people around me. I was like, yo, boy, you can't be like this. You're fucking it up. And I had enough humility left to be like, all right, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I don't know where the fuck I am. I don't even know who the fuck I am. Okay? So I was able to find a way back from some of that. But some of the collateral damage, you know, AKA having my face bashed in multiple times, yeah, I've lost most of my teeth because I've broken my hand several times. Yeah, I have arthritis in both of my hands. At every time a thunderstorm or a snowstorm or generally the wind farts in my direction, my hands feel like I have ground glass in them, which again is not real conducive playing fucking guitar. But I found ways to compensate. And listen, we've got to carry some of these dynamics forward. This is the price we pay. I try not to whinge too much about it, but it is part of the dynamic of my experience within sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
I love the whole concept of whinging, by the way.
Yeah.
Cracks me up. So, I never heard that before, Game of Thrones. You know, you're whinging.
I think it's a great analogy.
No whinging, you're whinging. You
yes, your mouth is open and...
Yeah, go ahead. How do you know you're whinging?
No, you tell it. How do you know? No, you do it.
No, you know.
I'm not. No, you brought it up.
Your mouth is open and sound is coming out.
Right.
You're whinging.
That's how you know you're whinging. Mm-hmm. And by the way, go get me a fucking chicken. That's
Fuck
for all
you,
you.
I won't do what you told me to.
Oh. See, that's just how we have it.
Yeah.
Now, Jennifer says something interesting. I learned some messed up stuff being on a swingers dating site. Oh, pray do tell. That wasn't just the normal, you know, milk toast kind of, yeah, Buffy.
Oh,
Those places are, listen, that's probably a podcast on it itself. we're going to take a musical break and we'll debate on how far we want to go down that particular moist hole, no pun intended. And Mindy says, and a little bit of the segue, she was a sex educator in the past. She learned too much, I think, but I bet over the years, since there's so much she doesn't know. Oh, yeah, believe me, again, and some things, once you know them, you can't unknow them.
Oh, yeah.
All right? And I'm notorious for like, oh, you want to see? Oh, I'm going to show you some shit. Oh! But listen, again, in all fairness, you know, warning, when we come back, this conversation may segue into some, you know, interestingly odd or who knows. So again, I never want to really, again, I say this humbly and truthfully, I don't want anybody to ever feel triggered. I don't want anybody to feel that these aspects mean that we're being dismissive or callous, because it's not. It's how I and Shiya in many ways, and a lot of us find it's a better way to process and deal with some of these things. And also, yeah, thank you, Donnie. Mindy, today's 15-year-olds know more about sex than we do. Yeah, ain't that the fucking truth to some degrees. But there's a case to be said. Listen, you know, I've met some of these young ones, and I got to tell you, these little fuckboys don't know what the fuck they're doing. They may think they know, but they do not.
Look, all I can
Because I hear some of the shit that they talk back and forth. You know what I mean? And, you know, this one kid was like, yeah, man, it was like 2.5 minutes of this really intense, and man, it was so fucking great. And then she got all pissed off at me, like I didn't do my job. And in the back of my brain saying, you timed that shit out at 2.5 minutes? Yeah. I didn't say it because I didn't want to destroy the kid's ego, make him feel bad. But yeah, male toxicity and some of these conditioning elements, you know what I mean, are fucked up. I think to some degrees, this is the flip side of technology, because anybody can just boot up a fucking computer and dive into Pornhub and drown in all kinds of shit that you just would never imagine. Look, otherwise.
I only have one very important public service announcement in regards to this. If you try pose number 138 in the Kama Sutra, I know it says you don't need support. You need support. Trust me on this.
Okay.
You need support.
And with that little sharing from the witch, we're going to segue into a quick track. This is my brother, Greg Carr Schumann, who been a lifelong friend of mine, musical collaborator. Fucking Jennifer. 2.5 minutes. Oh, then my 50-year-old is doing great at all night then.
There you go. All night long.
Yeah, listen, you know, take it where you can. No pun intended again. My brother Greg Carr Schumann, this is another track of his. It's called Bottom of the Sea. He and I will be making a much bigger announcement in a couple of weeks regarding some live music performance that we plan on doing, and some more writing. We have tracks from some submitted stuff from people still. We did not forget about the writing contest. It's just getting these things together, producing them. To put it bluntly, I don't like doing things half-assed, and I wanted to give this all really the true weight that it deserves, and it's a process.
And that being said, we are going to be working on some of these elements, and there will be no podcast next week.
Thank you for getting to the next point.
Yes.
There will be no podcast. Well, there might be a quick live element.
We might have a little pop on live and posting.
Long story short,
the full post.
I'm going to Jersey to go into the studio with the boys.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to be making some fucking music and setting the stage to at least do one, if not a couple of shows.
There's some cool shit coming down the half pipe. Some
cool shit. So with that, this is a track from my brother Greg called Bottom of the Sea, and we'll be back afterwards to continue our exploration of sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Rock and roll!
Yeah.
From whence we came and what yonder brings, profound all eloquence and layman things. If I promise you lies, will you fury sweetly love to hate me and hate loving me? And there we were on top of the world, and here we are at the bottom of the sea. And there we were at the bottom of the sea. Now here we are on top of the world. Don't make me look good, but when you look good, I don't look so bad. More beauty than I've ever known, seen or even dreamed. And there we were on top of the world, and here we are at the bottom of the sea. And there we were at the bottom of the sea. Now here we are on top of the world. A beacon on a submarine, a lighthouse or a Ferris wheel. Beauty like I've never known, seen or even dreamed.
So yeah, that was Bottom of the Sea by Greg Schumann, one of the guys that I've known, again, long time, great musician, and will be someone that I will be collaborating and working with not only for live performances, but it definitively looks like, and again, there's no official announcement. That's how these things work. Not yet, but
there's a rumor.
There's a rumor. People are saying, there's talking.
Happening.
We're making a trip to actually go investigate and explore these possibilities.
See what things might be happening.
Now, I have to go back to this, and again, I'm going to say this, I'm going to put this right off the bat. Nobody has to participate in this particular context going forward. I'm just going to throw it out there because it is my nature. Okay, so again, to whatever degree, but Diana threw out something that just absolutely screams, you have to. And, she says, she had no idea I dated a swinger. And then one day, something happened, and I ran away.
Inquiring minds want to know.
I mean, Diana, just to the degree that I know you, I do not ever get the context that you run away from much. And I don't say that, and again, in a negative, offhanded way. It's just,
no, it's because
you know,
such a
you're the fucking Ewok queen. I don't know what would have triggered you to the degree that you would just run away.
Brave Diana.
But if you would like to share with us. And then Jennifer, very nonchalantly, is just like, Diane, I'm seeing one on and off now. And that was just about the, you know, again, like, really, you know, how spicy was it? These are dynamics, and I can't stress this enough. And again, in all seriousness, the key to happiness is exploring the dynamics of who we are. Yeah. And one of the key dynamics of who we are is our sexuality. What we like, what we don't like. I highly recommend, especially to people in relationships, that you should explore together. You should not be afraid. I understand there are aspects of cultural condition, morality, all this other stuff. Oh, don't stick your tongue there. No, go ahead, stick your tongue there. All right?
See if you like it.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
See if they like it.
Right, exactly. Have a conversation. Now, listen, granted, I do not recommend, and again, this is a definitive element, you should not just assume. All right? Just because you saw it on Pornhub doesn't mean your partner will like it, okay?
This is true.
So you have a conversation, yeah, and you have it in an open and hopefully honest kind of way.
Don't pull the second right.
Because again, if you're like Shiya or Diana or myself or Jennifer and a lot of others, we're fucking empaths, so we're gonna read you anyway. So if you try and bullshit us, you're just gonna fuck up the mood.
Right.
So you might as well just say, hey, listen. You know what I mean? I've always really wanted to, can you stick a finger up my ass, please? Okay, don't dance around it. It's okay, guys, if that's, you know, your thing. And ladies, you know what? You don't have to go along with it, okay? This conditioning element, well, I have to because if I don't fuck his dick, I'm not a real woman. Guess what? If you don't want to suck dick, don't. Okay? And if that is the framework, and I'm going to say this bluntly, if that's what breaks your relationship, no offense, you didn't have a fucking relationship. Right. It was a fucking illusion, okay? I'm sorry. Jennifer makes a great point. The guys are fun. She's not ashamed of it. That's great. But there was a lot of talk before it happened. You're right. There has to be communication.
Yes.
That is not a dynamic that you can just throw somebody in the pool and be like, hey.
Sink or swim, motherfucker.
No, it's not fair. It's not appropriate, and it's not healthy.
Communication is key.
It has to be communication.
I had a friend that is in a very well-functioning polyamorous relationship. And she's like, yeah, everybody thinks that this relationship is all about the sex, when it really is a big exercise in constant communication.
Again,
like, yeah, that's true.
Different strokes for different folks. I do not begrudge. I don't understand it personally. From my experiences, you know, those dynamics are problematic at best, but I am humble enough to say, hey, guess what? Maybe for them it works. I'm happy if it does. That's great.
Been there, done that. Did not like the drama.
Did
not like the amount of drama that was.
But it's also the same analogy. I'm not interested in checking out Japanese puke porn. That's not my thing, okay?
No,
I don't get sexually aroused by Asian women puking, okay? Somebody somewhere, and I guess obviously a lot of people, are into that.
Enough that there's a whole subgenre.
Listen, there are subgenres for farting. There are literally porno movies budgeted for the sole intent of people farting each other in a sexual context.
That is so weird.
Okay. Now I fart on Shiya, the cats.
It's more like you.
But it's love. Like it's just like this is my love. Let me share.
It's okay.
My inner essence with you.
That we did.
But it's not a sexual context.
No, it's.
I'm like, hey, baby.
Like, yeah.
You're looking really sexy there. You wanna get in there and and
But no,
and smell what
no,
the rock is cooking
no.
for you.
No.
See, that just
Oh, no.
it doesn't work.
Oh, no.
You can see it's
no.
making her sing. She really is
Yeah.
into it, but she's afraid.
No.
She doesn't want to come out of that closet and
No.
admit it to you because she doesn't really want
No.
to be that dirty witch.
I
As I
will-
jokingly refer
I
to
will
it a
fart
lot.
on your pillow.
She's fucking cinnamon toast crunch.
I am cinnamon
She's
toast.
one
I'm
step
not
above.
milk toast.
She's one step above milk toast. You know what I mean? She thinks she understands it, but I'm like, baby,
I've had my days.
you haven't been up. You haven't been. Jennifer can relate to this. You haven't been up close and smelt it. Bro,
I think I'll
it's really great to talk about in abstract kind of.
I think I'll do it that way. Yeah. No, abstract is
Or when it's Gilbert Gottfried,
no.
fucking
Oh my God.
narrating 50 Shades. And he said, I want to play with your clitoris.
Yeah, no, that's a thing.
For anybody that wants to have your mind fucking blown, go ahead. Listen to Gilbert Gottfried fucking narrating 50 Shades of Grey. It's a real thing. You can go to Audible, you can download it, and you can listen to the whole fucking
The
thing
Monkey and the Scarecrow played it for me. It's traumatizing.
narrated
Yeah, no.
by Gilbert
Not
Gottfried.
okay.
Gilbert Gottfried and vagina just don't mix
No.
for me.
No, it doesn't.
But it was funny as shit.
It was traumatizing.
Oh my God.
It was traumatizing.
You know, Jennifer,
I wanted to go
I
around.
respect that. You've been with one man for 25 years. There were things you wanted to try. I do not blame you. And that's actually really healthy. And I
It is very
recommend that.
healthy,
In all
yeah.
seriousness, all joking aside, the only way we can truly be happy is to understand the dynamics of who we are.
Yeah,
And within that is what we like and what we don't like. It's very simple. It's not rocket science. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. I mean, obviously, in the context, if you're with somebody, we want to hope and believe that, hey, can you come on this little detour with me? And sometimes it's not a detour. Sometimes it's a major life shift. But the only way we know is by experience. Just like if you've never had a chocolate shake until you taste one, how do you have an analogy? You can't. Other people can describe it. You know, well, it's creamy, it's thick, it's rich, it tastes like chocolate. Well, what the fuck is chocolate, man? I've never tasted chocolate.
How do you explain it?
Until you taste chocolate, you don't have a framework. You can intellectualize
Bread to a
it.
blind
Right.
person.
You can't explain it.
Yeah.
You can overlap certain dynamics that can, for some people, be relatable. But again, without the baseline experience, there's nothing to correlate it with. There's nothing to relate to. Now, again, footnote, disclaimer, that doesn't mean run out and just stick your dick in something for no apparent reason, or ladies
Or
in the same
randomly
reason.
stick shit up your hoo-ha.
Right. Don't just, I mean, don't get me wrong. Everything being equal, whatever turns you on is cool within a reason. I just say, hey, again, be smart about it. You know, think about the context of what you're doing. Because again, even though you may be on point, you may be in tune, in touch with your feelings and your thoughts, and better than average chance, the other people around you are not. Okay? And that's where it can sometimes become problematic, especially within the framework of sexuality, because a lot of people, unfortunately, translate sexuality into other emotional contexts. Oh, you slept with me, that means you must love me, now you have to stay with me. No, that was a one-night stand. You were sexy in the moment, and you see where I'm going? Now, that's not always fair, that's not always right, which again, I always recommend have that honest conversation. You know what I mean? If you're out and about, and well, you're just, hey, this is the experience, what it is, hey, listen, I'm not looking for a relationship, I'm not looking to get married, I'm just looking for the moment. So as long as you're okay with that, and that works for men and women, or in between, it's honesty. And as long as you're honest, you're good. It doesn't, again, guarantee that it'll play out the way that you think. You know what I mean? Listen, I'll give you the analogy. On either side, any side of the coin, if you decide to experiment with anything involving the ass, the results could be shitty. Aha. See where I'm going? It's all about context. So, again, don't play with that ass unless you're prepared.
There you go.
You know what I mean? True story. Went down on a girl once. She was like, hey, listen, nobody has ever licked my ass before. Would you do that for me? Yeah, I'll do that for you. And no joke, true story, I licked her ass, and she farted in my mouth.
Oh my God.
Okay? Because, and here it is,
Oh geez.
she had an orgasm, and in the context of the orgasm, those contractions caused that bodily reaction. Needless to say, and again, I have to own my part in it, I was so freaked out by it that I literally left and never saw her again.
Oh jeez.
Okay? Not her fault. Okay? It was cool up until that moment. You know what I mean? But I wasn't prepared for it. I wasn't. No! I got to be honest with you. It was more of the mental assault. I think it was really more that dynamic. Because as an empath, I knew she was into it. And I kept going with it. And I thought, you know, I was the young, you know, power wolf. I'm going to get you off. I'm going to make you come like you've never come before.
Oh dear.
And the universe was like, yeah, go ahead, open your mouth. And I did. And the universe farted right in it. So sometimes the lesson is be careful what you ask for. Another flip side true story, and I've told this story a couple times, and I'll tell it now. It's a horrible story. It's a guy that we knew when we were younger. We hung around in the crowd. You know, I won't mention names. Joe Farrell, if you're anywhere out there. Oh my God, did I say his name out loud? Okay. Anyway, we're hanging out. And during this period of time, we'll just call this the cocaine years. And my buddy, you know, he liked his cocaine and he got really good cocaine. And I'm not talking like that bullshit street corner, been cut 30 times over with God knows. I'm talking straight off the goddamn boat, rock, fish scale, kind of rocket fuel that you just look at it and you're like, oh my fucking God. So anyway, Joe had what we'll refer to as a taste for certain types of women. Basically translated, he liked women that basically would fuck him for cocaine. And they were referred to in the day, and I'm sorry to say, as coke whores. Basically, get me high, and you can do whatever the fuck you want. So that was Joe's MO. He would find girls that were into the party scene. Here's some drugs. You take the drugs, and you can figure out the rest. Well, the universe sometimes has a way of balancing the scales. So Joe and her went off into their room. The rest of us are hanging out, doing our thing, listening to music, drinking beers, doing lines, you know, just being your typical sex, drug, and rock and roll guys. And the next thing we know, we hear this screaming, ungodly screaming coming from the bedroom. So we rush in. We're like, shit, to, you know, somebody OD, somebody killing somebody. No. Joe and this woman, and I will not name the woman because I blame Joe, not the women. So the women will remain nameless, but Joe Farrell will live in infamy. Here's what happened. They're doing coke. They get naked. They're having some fun. So she gets on top of him, and they get into what is referred to sexually as a 69, with her on top. So she's planted on his face. He's basically pinned down. She's, you know, going to town on him, and yes, boys and girls, he's going to town on her. In her moment of orgasm, she didn't just fart. Those of you who've ever had the joy and experiences of cocaine know that cocaine does certain things to your intestinal tract and your bowels and stuff, aka really good cocaine makes you shit.
Oh no.
So when she popped, she full-blown popped, and homeboy was down there 3 inches from the action when she exploded all over his face, in his mouth, in his eyes, in his nose. And she's on top of him. He can't get her off of him. We come in the door with her laughing her ass off, and homeboy literally covered in shit, losing his fucking mind. I tell you, there are certain things in my life that I have laughed incredibly hard that moment in time is by far top 5 comedy moments of just watching the ultimate fuckboy lose his mind, covered literally in shit.
That's fucking awesome.
Okay? Yeah, be careful, folks. That's what happens sometimes. You know, and again, one person's orgasm is another person's nightmare. A dream to some, a nightmare to others. Yes. But it's a real story. Now, he'll never probably admit it. He'll deny that shit, I'm sure. But there were fucking witnesses. And we talk about it periodically, you know. The roads have taken us all long and far apart. But every once in a while, I'll get that Facebook, hey, man, how you been doing? Da-da-da-da-da-da. Remember that shit with John? Of course, man, I'm still talking about it fucking 40 years later, man. That story will never get old. It freaks some people out. Other people literally, as Jennifer, are like, bleh, you know, but, you know, it was funny. I mean, it really was.
I'm like,
just to see that dynamic of somebody who was, you know, in one split moment of time, in the throes of sexual ecstasy, to the next split second, to be literally covered in human feces, to be choking on it, and it's in your nose, and it's in your eyes, and it's just like, the sanity check. And let me tell you, he was traumatized for weeks, like for real.
I'm sure he's
fucking traumatized. Every time, like we'd be out and stuff. He's like, he was tweaky about it. It's like he could still smell it. He could taste it in his mouth.
Oh, that's
he was always freaking out. It's like, is there still shit? And it's like, he took like 30 showers in like 4 hours. But there was nothing that was going to erase the trauma. Now, the worst part of it, I think of it, is that she was just like, yeah, that's what you get. You know what I mean? And, you know, for some of us, some guys, that type of element, you know, destroys masculinity.
Yeah.
Now, again, I'm not going to lie. The dynamic of how he treated women, as far as I'm concerned, this was the universal compensator. It's just like, yeah, you take advantage of women, you use drugs to manipulate them to do what you want, and this time you literally got shit on for it. Shauna, I'm sorry, I don't want you to legitimately puke, but here, this is the beautiful thing. Flip about it. Women, you should be empowered, okay? If you're in a sexual situation, okay, that you feel uncomfortable with, and a guy's doing something you shouldn't do, go ahead and shit on them. See how they like it then. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Because it changed him. It legitimately changed this guy. I don't think he ever looked at certain dynamics of sex the same way after that. You know, and again, you know, there are, as they say, different experiences, different strokes for different folks. I'm not saying, you know, hey, do this or hey, do that. But if that's, you know, it's okay to experiment. It's okay to check these things out. You know, because life is about living. And again, we were talking about earlier, we're all addicts, okay?
Yep.
First lesson, if anything you can walk away with, we're all addicts. By definition, the things that we like, we want more of, and we tend to overcompensate and go out of our way for those dynamics, regardless if it's a sexual context or any other context. Some of us are workaholics. Some of us are within the dynamics of this, that, or the other thing. You know, it doesn't matter what your particular thing is. It's unique to you and it represents you. But the underlying dynamic is, you know, we all bleed red. We all have emotional context. We feel. And we like what we like. And we surely don't like what we don't like. So those dynamics, when framed against each other, set the stage for what now becomes the drive for those experiences. You know, some people refer to, and I will refer to, Shiya does, as quality of life. You know what I mean? You know, these are elements, the dynamics of who we are based upon our experiences. So again, if you've never had chocolate before, you owe it to yourself to try it, unless you know that if you have the chocolate, it's going to kill you. Then I would say, yeah, no, it's okay. There's vanilla, there's strawberry, there's all this other stuff. Okay, just because you can't have chocolate doesn't mean there isn't lots of other stuff to enjoy. So sometimes the dynamic is, and I say this a lot, you know, I get guys who will come in for counseling and I'd be like, yo, man, I saw this girl and she's just dope and she's like this and I just got to have it. Well, no, man, maybe you're not meant to have it. Okay, just because we want a thing doesn't mean that it will. But if we do the work and if we make the honest efforts, we can experience things. You know, as Jennifer said, you know, there was a lot of dynamics and communication and they experimented. And in an honest and healthy framework like that, that's a great thing. That's a beautiful thing. We can learn things. We can experience things. And I say this to men, don't be so stuck in the old constructs and stuff. You know what I mean? Again, be open-minded to the dynamic that sexuality is not a one-way street. If you're in a relationship to any degree, it's also about your partner. So have that conversation. Don't be closed-minded, okay? Don't just default to the old fucking toxic fucking bullshit. Because guess what? And guys are like, well, you know, why didn't it work out? Why she leave? Because you're a fucking asshole and you didn't take care of her, dummy.
And it's okay.
Sometimes the simplest answer is the correct answer.
And it's okay for women to have a libido and a sex drive.
Right.
We get slut shamed all the time. Oh, you want sex? You must be a slut.
Thank you. That is a great analogy.
You know, no.
Men are heralded. Oh my God, look at this God amongst men. All the pussy he has slain. But if a woman even goes outside of, oh my God, she's such a whore. That slut. Oh my God, she just, Jesus, help. It's fucking all bullshit, people. Yep. They're all constructs. They're morality checks from somebody else, from somewhere else, for some other reasons, got nothing to do with you, and people play that shit all the time. Also, for all you ladies out there, quick insight. That's also a tool that men use to manipulate, because they'll play off that anxiety. They'll play off that self-esteem. You know what I mean? To try and get you to be more pliable, to maybe take it in the ass or do the things that you normally would not do, but because this motherfucker's got it spinning in your head that you think, well, you know what I mean? This is the only way that, you know, somebody's going to like. No, that's manipulation. That's bullshit. Yeah. You don't have to be anything you don't want to be. If somebody does not like you or connect with you for who you are, they don't deserve any of the other stuff anyway. And that's a dynamic of why relationships don't work. You know, Shiya and I hear it all the time. Why doesn't it work? Because it's based on bullshit. Okay? Yeah. If you try and build a relationship based off of a single sexual experience, guess what? It's not a question of if, it's just a question of when it's all going to fucking fall apart, man. That's the truth.
You have to have a foundation built on solid things. Because, you know, the sex, sometimes it'll be there, sometimes it won't. But the solid things, those foundational elements, those will always be there. And I'll tell you what, if you start off with good foundational elements, the sexual element can be dealt with or built.
Right. And that's not, again, to say that any one particular element is right or wrong. It's all unique to the individual. Jennifer says, you know, she got called a slut in an adult chat room by a 23-year-old girl. Yeah, see, and my response would be like that to me, and again, no offense to you, hon, I would be like, wow, I must be doing something right. If a 20-year-old girl is looking at me calling me a slut, you just hit a home run. Mm-hmm. You know, and I just would have pulled like an old Danny Glover reply. I just would have been like, tap, 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 all dressed up and knowing to blow, laugh out loud. You know what I mean? Right. Just like, who the fuck, I mean, again, context, adult chat room. That means that there's going to be adult chat.
But she was in the same goddamn chat room.
Well but here it is. And Jennifer, I know you understand this dynamic. More times, it's just, again, it's subterfuge. It's, again, a kind of another one of these illusion things. It's not that you were a slut per se, Jennifer. You were just a better slut than her. You were getting the attention. and she wasn't. That's the real truth in that type of context. And 99% of the time, when people are responding, yeah, it's because they're fucked up, because they don't like themselves, they don't feel attractive, they want to be the center of attention, they want, you know what I mean? And again, it's one of the most common dynamics that play out within the framework of sexuality. It's that judgment, it's that morality element. Ew, you slut. Fucking what? You know what I mean? Here's an analogy, okay? Just using the context of words. Slut refers, very lightly, but in the context of whore, which really kind of means sexual favors for an exchange of money.
Yeah.
But we're all whores to some degree or another within the pure definition of the world, because we all trade off certain elements of who we are for a job, for a relationship, for this, for that. So, again, when words become weaponized, you slut, whore, tramp, floozy, Jezebel.
I always have my fun joke. You've heard me say it 1.5 million times.
Please.
What every man wants.
What does every man want?
What every man wants is a lady to the public, wife and mother to the home, and a raging slut in the sheets.
It is, again, an old stereotype.
But it's true. That's the best of all worlds. So, I mean, hey, if somebody's calling you a slut, say thank you.
Yes.
Say thank you.
Now,
obviously.
sometimes the dynamics
Right.
within the context of sex, drugs, and rock and roll do not always play out, because some of the stereotypes are actually reflected back on the other end of the spectrum. AKA, as a performing musician, I can't tell you the number of times I've had women do things that I did not want them to do. I literally had a woman come up and grab my dick during a show, and literally would have blown me in front of the audience and everybody else had I allowed it. The only unfortunate problem in the context is my son was 10 feet away from me. Okay? And there was no reality this shit was gonna go down. So I tried to be cool about it. It's like, no, sorry, can't, But she was drunk. And she got not only pushy, but she got in that angry kind of, well, I'm going to take what I want. And unfortunately for me, that's when my old Brooklyn comes out, and I was like, fuck you, bitch, get the fuck off my dick. And to some degrees, I did feel a little bit bad. I did not want it to have to go to that degree. But I'm not going to lie, in that moment, and especially, in the middle of a show, my son, 10 feet away from me, a stand had to be taken. You know what I mean? And I just resorted to the, what? You didn't get it with the casual, nice way. Maybe the George Carlin way is your way. And that's what I had to do. And I basically had to shut her down, and, I got I must be a fag. What's wrong with you? You're not cool. And we laughed at it, and we played it through. But it wasn't long after that I was just like, and even my kid, my kid had a couple experiences. We did a show at the Stone Pony, and 2 drunken housewives of Newark, okay, and I say that comically, but also sarcastically. If anybody knows Newark, New Jersey, they were a bunch of what? Yeah, come here, little fresh boy meat. We're gonna have some fun with you. Ooh, look at the 2 of them just circled in on him like a couple of starving hyenas on a fucking baby llama. Like they were just ready to fucking devour him. And me and Tony were just standing off to the side laughing, watching this, and we were just like, yeah, the kid's in trouble. And they had him cornered, one on each side. They were all up all over him, touching his hair. And the panic in that boy's eyes, he wanted nothing to do with it. He wanted to run away. He didn't want to be rude, didn't want to be an asshole. And Tony and I are just standing there laughing. They're like, should we do something? I'm like, yeah, no, probably not. We should just let this play out. You know what I mean? So finally, and it was the most genius thing that he ever did. And it was great. But he didn't want to be hurtful or rude. So he was just like, hey, isn't that so-and-so over there? And he pointed. Both the women looked over and kind of just gave him a little bit of that out. And he literally dipped under kind of like a dividing railing thing that like separated part of the venue to go backstage. So he dipped under and literally ran for the back. And they couldn't get back there because they didn't have passes. So the security guys are like, yeah, no. And they're like, oh, but we're with them. And they didn't even know his name. You know what I mean? Yeah. So the security guys are like, fuck you, you're not getting back there. And Tony and I were just laughing our fucking asses off.
It's fucking genius.
But he got, listen, he got to see the other side of the coin, and it happens on both ends. Granted, women tend to be the ones who are exploited and manipulated within this framework. But there is a dynamic, especially when you bring in alcohol and drugs. And again, as I said earlier, I consider alcohol a drug. That this sets the stage now with rock and roll to sex. Ooh, he has long hair. I want to eat him.
Yeah,
and that kid wanted to know. Yeah. He's like, fuck this.
Bye.
But again, here's the beautiful thing. He didn't look at it in the stereotypical way. You know what I mean? He didn't look at it as like, oh, here's an opportunity for some drunken women. Let's take advantage of them and stick my dick someplace I shouldn't stick it. No, his instinct was like, no. So as funny and as, twisted as the scenario was, I also felt good, proud in the dynamic that, all right, he knows better. He's not buying into this whole fantasy bullshit thing and just hooking up with somebody just for the sheer fucking point of hooking up. Yeah, Jennifer, deer in a headlight. Yeah. Absolutely.
I love
But some things you have to experience firsthand to understand them. You can't understand them from a book. Again, we can intellectualize. Okay, that makes sense. But until you're full deep in the fucking, oh my God, I didn't expect it would feel like that. And you know what I'm saying? There are just certain dynamics of things. Until you dance, until you experience it, yeah, you're not really going to truly be able
I love Jennifer's
to appreciate
response to the slut shamer. You told her, you're in an adult sex chat room, so let the adults talk, little girl. That's
yeah, and Diana said, she'd been there, done that. 20-something-year-old? No. When they meet, and listen, I have no doubts in my mind, just, again, and I won't lie, I would love to be a fly on the wall for one of those scenarios, just to see, what I mean, firsthand, be like, damn, that fucked up. But listen, again, Jennifer says agree. You're in an adult sex chat room. What the fuck did you think was going to happen? Did you think this was going to be Tia Tiffany's? The magical underwear was just going to be passed around for everybody to sniff like a party favor? No, it's going to get weird, man. Whatever somebody's sexuality is, and especially in the old school, even the new school, chats, they're just words. So it's not like, you go on Facebook and somebody's like, hey, here's a pic of my dick. Don't you like it? I know how much Shiya loves the random dick pics.
Oh, my God. Yeah, you've seen me when I get there. I'm like, oh.
So what's actually worse? Talking in some typing. You know what I mean? They're words. And to some degrees, it's about that human interaction. It creates a little bit of the dynamic, especially if we're lonely, especially if we feel that we're not getting what we need or what we want. Sometimes just the pure, simple element of somebody paying attention, somebody listening, somebody playing with us, making us feel sexy, making us feel wanted.
Ooh, baby, ooh, baby, ooh, baby.
Tell me more. But these are all the dynamics within sex, drugs,
and rock and roll.
There you go. So listen, thank you again, everybody, for joining us, participating. Thank you for sharing the dynamics. Again, I always like to say, take what you need, leave the rest behind. Hopefully, maybe you had some laughs, maybe you learned something, maybe it was just an escape from the daily bullshit of this, that, or the other thing. I know for me, it means a lot to me every time, you know, that people take the time to share and interact, you know. I like it, not gonna lie. And it helps within certain dynamics at different times for different reasons. And I'd like to believe that in those dynamics and those different times, maybe it passes something along. You know, men, you know, if nothing else, you learned cocaine and 69 do not work. Okay, it's a bad combination.
Don't do it.
It's like pumping gas and lighting a cigarette at the pumps. You might get lucky once, but eventually it's going to blow up in your face. And it's not going to be pretty. Ladies, hopefully you learned you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. And all this sexual fucking bullshit ding-a-ling fucking construct type of stuff, it's just been made by a bunch of guys who were fucking horny and just like, well, if we tell them enough times, maybe they'll fucking believe it.
Yeah.
That's the real deal. They're just counting on you staying stupid. Don't be stupid. Okay? Now be careful. You should be able to define the elements of who you are, but there's that fine line. Some, and men do this too, not just women, will weaponize their sexuality. That is a little bit more of a slippier scope, but, you know, again, if you have honest communication and be like, listen, if you don't take that garbage out, boy, you won't be getting any of this pussy, that's okay. You can have that dynamic in your relationship if that's what it takes to get them to take the fucking garbage out.
Yep.
Okay? Context. Got to look at it for what it is. Okay? So with that, I'm going to close out with one of my tracks, Mr. Old Wolf. And it's Demons. And Demons was a track that I wrote to deal with some of the dynamics, not only of the past, but of those old constructs that were handed to me. And really, they were lies. And that is the framework of the words that I wrote behind this song. You know, to tell me stories that were written upon lies. And the dynamic of how we lose ourselves within that. We try and become things that we're not because other people say, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to act like that, da-da-da-da-da-da. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Here you go. Ba, ba, ba. So, this is my, I guess you could say, little bit of a painting musically within that spectrum.
Shadow work.
Little shadow work and a little bit of, you know, hey.
I'm glad we had you laughing and having
Yes,
fun.
absolutely. Thank you again as always. We will be back tomorrow, Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for
What the Fuck Wednesday?
Yep. And we will not be back next Tuesday. Again, we may do a kind of impromptu live from where we will be, but we'll be off and we'll be remote. We'll keep you guys in the loop, you know, on social media and stuff. But know that you are loved, love each other, and enjoy my dance with the demons.
to me.